Welcome back to DJ Carl Play Legacy. Today we're back with some bean on bean violence. For Josh's opening hand, he'll be keeping 7, including Daze, Force of Will, Up the Beanstalk, Swords to Plowshare, Ponder, Caracas, and an Island. David on a mulligan down to 6. We have a hand of Sheoldred's Edict, 2 Ponder, a Force of Will, Misty Rainforest, Spell Pierce, and Sauron's Ransom, which will be putting the Sauron's Ransom to the bottom. With Josh on the play, turn 1 he'll start off with an Island and a Ponder. He'll pass turn from there. For David, he's going to start off by playing a Misty Rainforest. He's going to crack it down to 19. Grabbing an Underground Sea. And cast Ponder of his own. And keep those on top and draw. And pass turn. Josh will untap and draw. Looks like he's going to start off by firing off a Brainstorm. He'll then play the Caracas and pass turn from there. David will untap and draw. Play a Misty Rainforest. And cast another Ponder. Looks like you'll keep him on top and take a draw. You'll pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. Keeping the cantrips going, Josh is going to cast another Ponder. He'll keep him on top and draw. He'll then play a Misty Rainforest and pass turn from there. David will untap and draw. Play a Polluted Delta and pass turn. Josh will untap and draw. Start his turn off by cracking the Misty Rainforest down to 19. He'll get a Tropical Island. And he'll cast an Up the Beanstalk. David will respond with a Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce will resolve, countering the Beanstalk. Josh will then play a Mystic Sanctuary tapped and pass turn. David will untap, and at his upkeep, he will crack the Misty Rainforest. And get a Tropical Island. And then draw per turn. He'll start off with the beans of his own. That resolves. ETB trigger. David will draw a card. And pass turn from there. will start his turn off by casting another Up the Beanstalk. In response to that, David's going to cast a Force of Will, pitching a Daze and paying 1 life. That will trigger off the Beanstalk. He'll draw a card. Josh will respond with a force of his own. Pitching a Daze and paying 1 life as well. David will respond to Josh's force with another force of his own, exiling a Ponder and paying 1 life, which will trigger his Beanstalk to draw a card. That force will resolve, countering. That force will resolve, clearing the stack, fully countering the Beanstalk. Josh will then follow up, and he'll Island Cycle a Loring Reveal, and he'll get a Tundra. He'll play that as his land per turn, and pass from there. He'll play a Wasteland. And then he'll cast a Murktide Regent, triggering Up the Beanstalk. David will draw a card, and it'll come in with 5 counters on it. David will pass. At David's end step, Josh will cast a Swords to Plowshares targeting the Murktide Regent. That will resolve. David will gain the life. Josh will untap and draw. And pass turn from there. End step, David's going to go ahead and activate the Wasteland, hitting the Tropical Island. David will then untap and draw. Play another Wasteland, and pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. And pass turn from there. End step, David's going to cast a Sauron's Ransom. In response to that, Josh is going to cast a Leyline Binding. That will resolve. Josh will exile the Up the Beanstalk. Sauron's Ransom will resolve. David will choose Josh. Josh will look at the top 4 cards of David's library and separate them into a face-down pile and a face-up pile. David will put one of the piles into his hand and the rest in his graveyard, and the ring tempts him. David's going to take the face-down pile, putting a Bowmaster and an island in his graveyard. He will then untap and draw. He'll start his turn off by casting a Ponder. He'll keep those on top and draw a card. He'll then crack the Polluted Delta, going down to 23. We'll get another Underground Sea. Main phase, David will cast a Orcish Bowmaster while Josh is tapped out. So ETB, he'll ping Josh for 1 and make an Orc Army token. So I'll have 1 counter on it. He'll then play another Wasteland. Looks like he's going to cast another Orcish Bowmasters, making the Orc Army a 2/2. Pass his turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. Main phase, he's going to Swords one of the Bowmasters. And he'll pass turn from there. David will untap and draw. He'll go to combat and attack for 3. Second main phase, David's going to cast an Up the Beanstalk. That will resolve ETB. David will draw a card. He'll then play a Misty Rainforest. He'll pay 2 and cast another Murktide Regent. That will resolve. It'll get 1 counter on it, and David will draw a card off the bean. From there, David's just going to Wasteland the Tundra and pass turn. Josh will untap and draw. And pass turn from there. David will untap and draw. Move to combat. Attacking for 7. Second main phase, David will cast another Up the Beanstalk. That will resolve ETB, draw a card. And he'll pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. And concede the game from there. Moving on to sideboards, for Josh, he'll be taking out 2 Solitude, 4 Days, and a Leyline Binding, bringing in a Pyroblast, Flusterstorm, 2 Carpet of Flowers, an Endurance, Force of Vigor, and Lavinia, the Azorius Renegade. For David, he's going to be taking out 2 Fatal Push, 2 Sheoldred's Edict, bringing in 2 Force of Vigor, a Leovold Emissary Trust, and Turok Dread Cantor. For game 2 with Josh on the play, Josh's opening hand is a Leyline Binding, Triumph of St. Catherine, Hurrow, Titan of Nature's Wrath, a Brainstorm, Ponder, Caracas, and Flooded Strand. For David's opening hand, we have a Thoughtseize, Orcish Bowmasters, Force of Negation, Wasteland, 2 Misty Rainforest, and a Polluted Delta. Josh on the play, he'll start off by playing a Flooded Strand. He'll fetch down to 19. He'll get an island. And start off with a Ponder. He'll keep the cards on top and draw, and pass turn. David will untap and draw. Play a Misty Rainforest, crack it down to 19. Grabbing an Underground Sea, and it'll cast a Thoughtseize. Looks like he's going to take the Triumph of St. Catherine. He'll pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. Play Caracas and pass turn. David will untap and draw. He'll play a Misty Rainforest and pass turn. At David's end step, Josh is going to cast a Brainstorm. In response to that, David's going to fetch down to 16. Get a tropical island. Then he'll cast an Orcish Bowmasters. Josh is going to go ahead and cast the Force of Will, exiling the Uro and paying 1 life. That will resolve. Then the Brainstorm resolves. Josh will then untap and draw. And he'll reveal a Triumph of St. Catherine off the Miracle. That will resolve. Josh will then play Tundra as his land per turn. And cast a Ponder. That will resolve. He'll shuffle up his library and take a fresh draw, and he'll pass a turn from there. David will untap and draw. He'll play a Bayou and pass turn. Josh will untap and draw. Move into combat. He'll attack for 5. Dave will go to 11. Josh will go to 23. He'll then play a Tundra and pass turn. And Josh's end step, David's going to cast a Brainstorm. That will resolve. David will untap and draw. He'll play a Polluted Delta. David will then pass a turn. Josh will untap and draw. Josh will move to combat. Looks like before damage, David's going to cast a Murderer's Cut. That will resolve. And so when Triumph of St. Catherine is put into his graveyard from the battlefield, he'll exile it and the top 6 cards of his library in a face-down pile. And if he does, shuffle that pile and put it back on top of his library. Moving to second main phase, Josh will cast a Ponder. Keeping the cards on top, he'll take a draw, play a Flooded Strand, and pass turn. David will untap, and at his upkeep, he'll crack the Polluted Delta, going down to 10. And he'll get another tropical island. and take a draw. And play a Wasteland. Is going to cast a Leovold, Emissary of Trest. In response, Josh is going to cast a Brainstorm. Brainstorm resolve. Josh with no response to Leovold, that will resolve. David will pass turn from there, of which then Josh will attempt to Swords to Plowshares to Leovold. In response, David's going to crack the Wasteland. And then he'll cast a Spell Pierce targeting the swords. Spell Pierce will resolve, countering the swords. David will pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw, revealing the Triumph of St. Catherine. So he'll cast it for the miracle. He'll then play a Lamp Return and pass. David will untap and draw. And he'll cast a Murktide Regent, which will resolve. So he'll get one counter off of that. And he'll pass turn. Josh will untap and draw. Josh will move to combat, attacking with the Triumph of St. Catherine. No blocks from David, he'll take it, going down to 5, putting Josh at 28. Josh will pass the turn from there. David will untap and draw. And pass turn. Josh will untap and draw. Josh will move to combat and attack with the Triumph of St. Catherine. Looks like David's going to attempt to block with both creatures. During blocks, Josh will cast a Leyline Binding. In response to that, David's going to hardcast a Force of Negation. That will resolve, countering the Leyline Binding. No other tricks. Go to damage. Josh will have the damage go to the Leovold. Then go to 33. Triumph of St. Catherine will die. So he'll exile it in the top 6 cards and shuffle him back on the top of his library. He'll then pass turn from there. David will untap and draw. It looks like David's going to cast another Murktide Regent. There'll be 3 instants and sorceries. So the original Murktide will gain the additional counters. David will move to combat and attack for 7. With nothing from Josh, he'll go down to 26. David will then pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw. He'll then start off with a brainstorm. He'll then cast a Swords Plowshares on the 7/7 Murktide. No response from David. He'll go up to 12. It looks like second main. Josh is going to play Mystic Sanctuary, of which he'll put a Ponder back on top of his library, of which he'll pass turn from there. David will untap and draw. And attack for 6 with his Murktide. Second main phase, David's going to cast a Turok Dread Cantor. And pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw and cast the Ponder. Looks like he's going to put him back and draw and pass turn. David will untap and draw. He'll play an island. He'll move to combat and attack for 8. No response from Josh. He'll go down to 12. David will then pass turn from there. Josh will untap and draw, revealing a Terminus. He'll then cast it for the miracle cost. In response, David's going to hardcast a Force of Will. That will resolve, countering the Terminus. Josh will then pass turn from there. David will untap and draw. Move to combat. Attack for 8, putting Josh to 4. He'll pass turn from there. At David's end step, Josh is going to crack the Flooded Strand, getting a Savannah. He'll untap and draw. Main phase, Josh is going to cast a Leyline Binding. David will hardcast another Force of Will, and Josh will concede from there. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.